Hello and welcome to this introduction to A-Level Geography at the Bishop Stortford High School. I'm Miss Winterburn and I'm the subject leader for Geography, and this little video will take you through a little bit of information about the course itself and how it be assessed and how we aim to support you in your studies so that you are successful at the end of the next 2 years. Geography at A-Level has developed massively over recent years. It's split in two, as you'd expect. There's a physical geography element to the course and a human geography element to the course. Within physical geography, in year 12, we look at two topics. We look at tectonics, which will cover concepts that you're familiar with in relation to an investigation of volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, but it goes much further beyond that. We consider, for example, how hazard profiling might help us understand concepts like vulnerability and resilience. We look at mitigation and adaptation and how engineering responses might provide solutions to people who live in hazard zones. When we look at coasts, we're going to be thinking about landscapes and processes, obviously the impacts of climate change and tectonic activity, but also coastal retreat and flooding. In year 13, we look at the water cycle, water insecurity, which for billions of people on our planet is a growing issue. And then no course in geography would be complete without thinking about energy issues. But we look at this through the carbon cycle and ultimately, of course, climate change. It goes without saying that to be an effective geographer, you've got to be interested in current affairs. You've got to want to follow the news, and we will support you in this, but it also requires you to have a hunger to be following this on your own initiative. On the human side of the course, in year 12, we look at globalization and regenerating places. Globalization, you might not have studied at GCSE, but the concepts involved you will be extremely familiar with. Regenerating places has a focus on Europe and USA, looking at our local communities, how they've evolved over the last 50 years, how they've produced winners and losers, how people perhaps in our country and within America have been left behind, and how that's affecting their perspective on the world. In year 13, we look at superpowers, so the old China versus the USA debate, which obviously Trump's brought an additional element of surprise to. And also we look at global development issues, health, human rights, quite fascinating topics that you probably won't have studied before in much depth. And again, globalization, you know, you'll be familiar with concepts like the flows of goods and people around the world. But we start at A-level to think about the flow of ideas. We start to think about how changes in technology are begin to impact our political processes. And many people talk about these being a threat to democracy itself, and you will have witnessed discussions around this in the media over the last few years. We use the war on terror as a starting point for thinking about human rights. And then we move on to think about health. Pollution kills many more people across the planet every year than do HIV, malaria combined, never mind COVID-19, which of course is at the top of everybody's attention at the moment. You know, there was a phrase on the first PowerPoint here, there's never been a better nor more relevant time to study geography, and I suggest that is true. Topics that have been in the news, good grief, Brexit, climate change protests, Black Lives Matter, COVID-19. What are the roles of international organizations in these crises? Where are people reacting? On what scale? How are they combining their efforts to address these global crises? It's never been a better time to do A-level geography. Now, a question that many people ask when they're thinking about choosing geography is about its fit with other subjects. And geography is unique in that it spans the sciences and the humanities. These are some of the obvious subjects that geography fits well with, but it doesn't fit badly with any subject. It brings a new dimension to your understanding of the world. Biology, you could easily say, for example, we're considering ecosystems, we're thinking about the carbon cycle. Chemistry, we're looking at climate change. Maths, we look at statistics, we look at evidence base in relation to data sets. Politics, many students who do A-level politics actually say that geography is more political than A-level politics. Economics, huge overlap there. In fact, there is a unit on development in economics as there is in geography. It's just that you're looking at it from a different perspective, and the list goes on. Now, just to think through that idea a little bit further. So if some of those issues are being looked at across different subjects, so how does geography add to it? Well, we are looking at issues. We're looking at science, we're looking at technology, but in geography, that's just our starting point. From then, if we're thinking about any of these issues, we want to think about how are people being impacted on our planet? How's the environment being impacted? Where is being impacted? At what scale? What are the consequences of us not taking action? Why haven't we taken action already? What's stopping us? Who's blocking change from happening in a positive way? And how might we develop a global census that will help us to address some of these problems? These are the kind of issues and questions that we are thinking about as geographers. And we're looking at evidence-based decision making. We're putting ourselves in the shoes of politicians and decision makers, policy makers everywhere. And what this course will do is to train you to think like a geographer, and the benefits of that you can bring to whatever direction you go in next. So after 2 years, how will you be assessed? The examination forms 80% of your grade. There are 2 papers, a human and a physical paper, and on those will be short and mainly longer essay-based responses. Paper 3 is what we call a synoptic investigation, and you will receive a resource booklet on an issue or a place, so we won't know in advance where that will be. And you'll get a series of longer answer questions, so you'll get time to examine thoroughly the resources, but ultimately you're being asked to think like a geographer, and this paper 3 tests your understanding from across the whole of the course. The final 20% of your grade is dependent on what we call the independent investigation, or the NEA, the non-examination assessment. And this is a report that you will do. We start this in year 12 by going on a field trip. For 4 days, we go down to Dorset, and you have a choice of what you want to investigate. Most people pick to investigate a topic that relates to coasts or to regeneration. So the teachers who are going to guide you through this to success are Ms. Botwell, myself, and Mr. Griffiths. And between us, we have a wide range of interests. And that means that we developed a course that's both strong on physical and on human geography. And where could this take you? Geography opens doors. It's considered to be a key skills developer. It's sought after in many different areas. I'll show you in a little moment just some of the directions it could take you. But the strengths are that you are able to develop evidence-based arguments based on real-world understanding. You're asked to evaluate opposing positions, to empathize, to understand others' viewpoints, as well as many of the theories that have been developed over the decades by geographers. You have to work independently on the research project that you will do, and you have to understand the nature of bias, which is critical in today's world. So where could this take you? And the reality is, geography doesn't close doors, it opens doors. Many people go on to study geography-related degrees. That could be on the human side. We have people going off to study politics and international relations, for example, to study pure geography quite often, and sometimes environmental science, disaster management, etc. It could take you, though, into research consultancy, into law, into business and management, into government. Yeah, it really does open doors. In fact, the employment rates for geographers are amongst the highest of all degrees. And we support you in a myriad of ways. Obviously, you're going to get a textbook, folks, and we also encourage you and support you to get revision guides, to read geography review, to purchase your own issues of that. We have a Twitter account that pushes out relevant news articles just to help you in relation to the myriad of issues that we're looking at. We're supporting people to enter the Young Geographer of the Year competition that's run by the Royal Geographical Society. And you'll see in the pre-course information that we've provided as part of the bridging units that we've got a guide there for you, full of books, films, documentaries, online courses that will help you to start to think like a geographer. You know, geographers are renowned for their wide range of interests. If you go to university and study it, then you begin to specialize. But at this point, folks, we would just encourage you to embrace all it has to offer, and hopefully that guide will get you started. It will be there to support you during your 2 years of study. And then ultimately, if you do decide to study geography with us, which we very much hope you will, then there is a compulsory bridging unit task that also you will see in the information that's provided. So I hope this has given you a useful insight into what geography might be like at the Bishop Stortford High School. And thank you for listening.